that school buildings be closed and everyone working remotely and children learning from home. Then we have a blended hybrid format. So if the public health department guidance provides the ability to bring small, stable cohorts of students to school, this is where the blended hybrid format will come into play, and being able to have students in school for part of the week while they continue to learn from home for the remainder of the week. And then, of course, we have full reopening. And full reopening can also take two different forms. It could be full reopening with certain safety provisions put into place, or it could be full reopening without any restrictions, going back to our traditional schooling experience that we're most accustomed to. Now, determining which one of these scenarios we'll be able to navigate to for reopening in the fall will be dependent upon our public health guidance. Our Santa Clara County Office of Education has put together some guidance documents for planning around all three different scenarios. They've provided some tools for districts to think through as we prepare for whichever opportunity may come before us as we look at that health data. Santa Clara County Public Health Department, they are still pending providing reopening school guidance. We anticipate that guidance to be released this week. If it could come out as early as tomorrow, but we have been told for sure by Wednesday we should be able to receive that information to help guide us towards that decision of what reopening will look like. And then again, just keeping in mind, there's various areas that we have to consider as we plan through each of these scenarios, thinking about health and wellness, school operations, teaching and learning, and then of course our financial and procurement implications for each scenario. And providing, ongoing regular communication to all of you, letting you know where we are, what information we've received, and how we are continuing to move forward for that final plan for the fall. And so at this time, I'm going to introduce you to our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Dr. Joseph McCurry. He's going to be reviewing the three models and the areas of focus that the district action team have been considering as they've been thinking through the possibilities for all of those three scenarios that I just shared. So Dr. McCurry, if you're ready, you can go ahead and proceed with the next two slides.
Great, thank you. So my name is Joe McCreary. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of the Education Services Department, and I'm going to be addressing the priorities for each scenario. So I've been meeting with two different groups of folks over the last couple of weeks in our elementary level and middle school level, and we've been looking into these six priority areas. So first and foremost, we've been working on instruction. What is the instruction going to look like moving forward in all three different models? So we have to look at student engagement and the different options for learning. We're also looking at technology, trying to figure out our devices, what works for our students, what can we do at the district level to help support teachers, if we need to have additional professional development for teachers, to make sure that everyone is on the up and up with their training when it comes to technology so that our students are engaged. We also want to consider the wellness and the social emotional learning styles of our students, and making sure that as we start the new school year that we build community within our schools, and making sure that students, families feel welcome depending on which scenario we go through. So we're definitely looking to make sure our social emotional learning is something that we focus on. Another big area of discussion are facilities, making sure that they're clean, disinfected, and that we follow all safety protocols. Another area of focus is operations, making sure our transportation is up for our students who qualify for special ed. We also want to make sure that we have guidelines in place for visitors, volunteers. If there's special events, that we have to follow all of the guidelines that are being sent to us by the public health department. And another big issue that we're working on right now is communication. So how often we communicate with stakeholders via email, newsletters, social media, and something similar to this, like a town hall meeting. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we have the 3 phases of reopening school for the 2021 school year. As we've talked about right from the beginning of our presentation, it's the traditional reopening of schools. Everyone working in the districts understands that model, and we want to make sure that we get a little bit more information with that. So I'll start there. Standard in-person class sizes. So that would be your regular all 24 students at the elementary level, 30 students at the middle school level. It would have your traditional daily schedule with some modifications. We would have to make sure that we had the physical distancing in place. We would make sure that our students are in stable cohorts and that there was limited gatherings of students. We would repurpose spaces for instruction if necessary, restricted areas and or programs where we would make sure students didn't mix, increase our cleaning procedures, and families may want a distance learning option. So we have to be cognizant, and I saw chat boxes about families wanting different options. So definitely something that we're going to be looking into. The second phase of reopening is the hybrid, which is also considered the blended reopening model. This would reduce the in-person class sizes by half. So a traditional class would be 12, and those classes would meet 2 days a week, for example. If you had a class of 30, half of the class, 15 and 15. We would reduce the schedule to accommodate capacity limits, continue to hold physical distancing in place, once again having those stable cohorts with limited gatherings, repurposing spaces for instruction, restricted areas in our programs, increasing cleaning procedures, and then families may also want a distance learning option. So the hybrid model is a combination of the traditional and the distance learning. So the distance learning option would be your standard remote class size, what we experienced already in the spring. We would have, may have the option to phase in small groups as public health allows, modifying the daily schedule also, and we would likely need an option that remains. So once again, these are the 3 phases of reopening that we're looking into at this time: traditional reopening, a blended hybrid model, and full distance learning, which we also experienced in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCurry. So I wanted to also share, as we mentioned, there's going to be a lot more information that's going to be coming through to us this week. We have the Santa Clara County Public Health Department guidance that will be revealed this week. We also have statewide feedback and expectations for reopening of schools that should be signed off by the governor by tomorrow. So there will be more clarity regarding expectations for the various models that we may implement. And so our district action team, as we go through and get clarity on those guidance pieces, we will go back and we will look at all of these 3 options that we have available, and then be able to provide to our Board of Trustees what we feel is the best recommended plan for the fall. I know I've had different questions about other ways that shared ideas can come to us in the district. And we're very grateful to have such a supportive community and staff that have been really spending a lot of time reflecting on what might be possible for our students in the fall. So one thing that we've done is we've created a new page on our website, and it is called it's a community engagement page, and it's going to give all of you the opportunity to type in questions, to put in suggestions or comments as we continue to move forward. And on this page, we will develop an FAQ, an ongoing FAQ, based on your wonderings and on your feedback, so we can provide as much clarification as possible moving forward as we get ready for the start of the school year. Because we know that you may be talking with folks in your neighborhood or other colleagues, and sometimes information may be unclear. And so we want to be sure that we can provide a unified message where everyone understands, what's going to be possible through this. So just to quickly share with you where you can find that, if you go to our website and you go under the Parents tab, the very first section you will see there, let me go under our Parents tab, you see BUSD Reopening 2020. And as you scroll down, it has their Share with BUSD. And that's where you will find a simple form that you can complete and drop in your questions or comments and suggestions. Also, our town hall today, our presentation will also be included, and we'll drop it in here. Any communications that we have provided regarding reopening, you will also be able to locate here. And then I do believe in the chat box, someone was asking about the survey results. So the survey results were presented last Tuesday to our Board of Trustees. So they're already available publicly. They're attached to the board agenda. But for community ease, we will also be dropping them here on this page. So that way, you can have access and see how our community is thinking at this point. I do want to say that we do intend to send out an additional survey, because we also know that as staff and families have more information, feelings may change. As our county's health data changes, that may also cause people to change and think differently about what they want for children in the fall or for themselves as staff members in our district. So that's one of the reasons why we want to also have this location to drop in an FAQ and make that available for individuals to continue to go back and check on the most current information for the district as we navigate reopening. So then finally, as we close with just the presentation portion, I just want to reiterate, my thankfulness to everyone involved in the district action team, all the families that have reached out to share, suggestions and thoughts about the fall, because everyone has had one main focus, and that's our students, and thinking through about what's going to be best for them when we think about the 2021 school year. We know that there's been a lot of uncertainty. There still continues to be a lot of unknowns, but I really do feel that after this week, with some of the clarity that we'll get from our public health department, it will really help us to move quicker in developing a more solid framework of what we can provide for our children. Also know that as we make those plans, we also recognize that families will be seeking options. And that's one of the main reasons why we will be sending out another survey, because the last survey that we had provided was back in end of May. It's been a month's time now. There's new information. Our health status is different. and people may be feeling differently. The other thing I want to share is with Santa Clara County Public Health Department guidance. They'll be providing us guidance this week, but they also reminded us that their guidance could change come August 1st. Again, depending on their health guidance. If we've learned nothing else, is that, you know, when you're dealing with a health crisis, that health data is constantly in flux, and you know, conditions can look better one week and then change the following. So that's something that we want to keep in mind. And then finally, part of this process of putting everything together is also continuing to work with our labor partners and having discussions with them to provide, you know, reflection on what we're able to do to ensure our staff is safe, and we can support them as we look at the three possible scenarios of what we might be able to offer in the fall. And so with that, you know, again, we thank you for your feedback. We encourage you to go to our new page where you can put in your questions and comments. We'll be checking that every day, you know, for the next coming month as we move forward to opening school.
Thank you, Dr. Fuentes, and thank you, Dr. McCurry. Lots of great information has been shared thus far, and we have had a number of parents participating with us already. Up to this moment, we have 299 participants, parents, staff, and administrators, all listening into this conversation. We'd like to start the FAQ, or the questions and answer part of this session. We have anticipated a number of questions, and then we've seen a number of new questions that are coming in through the chat. Feel free to drop in your questions into the chat box. We are going to be gathering that information and also sharing it on the website, as Dr. Fuentes mentioned. So Dr. Fuentes, I'd like to go ahead and start with the question part here of this session. Some parents would like to know, what if they want to make the personal choice of not sending their child to school, and they'd like to go 100% distance learning rather than, you know, a hybrid model, if that were what was being offered? What would the response of the district be?
Thank you for that question. We know that it has been an ongoing wondering, especially even in the spring. Prior to closing our school buildings, there was interest from parents at that point in time wanting to seek opportunity to have their children learn from home. We do know that that's going to be, you know, a consideration for a lot of families for a variety of reasons. And we definitely will be preparing that option for our families. We don't have a lot of details yet on what that will look like. And that's one of the reasons why we'll be doing a new survey to be able to identify as we move forward how many parents would seek that alternative plan. Also, because we would need to ask all of you, our families, if that is a plan that you seek. We also would need you to make that as a plan for commitment of time, because what we'll need to do is we'll need to revisit our staffing and see our staff and what's their capacity for teaching in person as well as teaching remotely, and ensuring we have comparable numbers to support that. But it is a goal for us to have that available. Part of the state guidance is also providing that as an opportunity, especially for families who have children with various health conditions. That may be a main consideration for you to want to keep your child home and learning from home.
Dr. Fuentes, we've had a number of questions come in through the chat that are quite detailed, and I don't know that we're in the position to respond to those questions, but I'm going to share them with you so that you can hear them. You know, will school be a whole day, half day? What about childcare? Will computer labs be open? Will school libraries be closed or open in this hybrid model? So there are a number of detailed questions that have come in through the chat, and I wanted to share those with you for your initial reactions.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Well, let me talk about one that I know. I just had a conversation with a parent today on this topic, which is the topic of childcare, because I know, when we think about the possibility of having hybrid models or even, full distance learning models, if we were to get another shelter-in-place order, yet we have parents that need to go to work. Or staff members that have conflicts with teaching and having children that they have to care for, what would we be able to do? So we've started already looking into childcare opportunities for our community. As we moved into the summer, for example, it was very challenging for childcare to be widely available. And the main reason for that was the current shelter-in-place order. The current shelter-in-place order originally was listed, at first did not allow for childcare. It transitioned into allowing for childcare, but for essential workers only. And just 2 weeks ago was adjusted to expand to other professions that were being called back to work during this summer season. So what we've done is the past few weeks, myself and our cabinet has been doing outreach to our typical providers that work with us during the school year. We have fantastic partners with YMCA, San Juan Bautista, the Sunshine School, as well as with the city's ROC program. So we're having conversations with them now to see what would their capacity be to partner with us in the fall. I know many of them have begun to reinvigorate their child care for summer, but they have very restrictive rules that they have to follow, including a capped capacity. So right now for childcare, they're at a capped capacity of 12 children per group. And so that has been challenging. So one of my inquiries with them has been to the extent they're capable of expanding cohorts with their existing staff, so that way we can provide new opportunity for childcare support to families who maybe have not been part of their original programming. That's who they're prioritizing at this time for the summer months, and still trying to navigate what they can do. But we do have wonderful partners. We're hoping that might be part of the solution. And once we have more information, we'll certainly share that with all of you. I do also want to add that Santa Clara County Office of Education has taken the lead in coordinating childcare services during this shelter in place. So they do have a website on, or a web page on their website that lists all the possible providers throughout Santa Clara County. And it's actually a really nice listing, and it shows which provider has existing space right now, and where they're located in the county. So that's definitely a resource that we can add to our webpage, so it's easier to be found for all of you, and we'll keep you posted on what our local providers may be able to do for our own community here in Berryessa. And then I believe you also had a question regarding hybrid and what would those schedules look like, correct?
Yes, people wanted to know whether it'd be a whole day, a half day, and whether some of your facilities would remain open or closed.
Mm-hmm. So what I can share right now is, that decision hasn't been made, but I am going to let Dr. McCurry share briefly just all the different scheduling opportunities that have been examined.
So we're working with our 2 committees, looking at all of the different possibilities, especially for the hybrid model. So at this point, we've landed on a 2-day model for the elementary levels, possibly Monday, Tuesday for the 12 students to attend school. And then there would be a break on Wednesday where no one would attend school. That would when the deep cleaning would happen and teachers would be participating in collaboration and professional development. And then the Thursday, Friday would be the additional 12 to 15 students, depending on if they're a primary or upper grade class. Some of the questions that are coming up specifically, I can jump in and answer as well. We're looking to make sure that students have all of the materials that they would need in the regular classroom for hybrid. So whatever we were able to give students at the beginning of the day, or excuse me, at the beginning of the year, we would also offer that up during the hybrid and the distance learning model. So students would have paper copies of their workbooks for English language arts and for math. So those are definitely things that we're considering. A couple other questions that popped up is that would PE be something that we would be working on too? So PE would also be within the model, especially at the elementary level for our 4th and 5th grade students and at our middle school. We're also looking at trying to get our music teachers back in the swing of things as well. And that's also for 3rd through 5th grade at the elementary level and middle school at the middle school level. So for middle school, the hybrid model would look a little different, but we're also making sure for both elementary and middle, there would be a check-in so that all students are expected to check in the morning with their teacher and do it via Zoom or some kind of online platform. So we want to make sure that that happens from TK all the way through 8th grade if we were to do a distance learning model or for us to do a hybrid model. Now that would look a little differently in the hybrid model because you'd have 12 kids in the classroom and then 12 kids checking in at home. But it's also a really good way for the social emotional aspect so that students are being connected on a daily basis. So on the Wednesday where the students wouldn't participate, it's also going to be a check-in for students and their teachers just to see how they were doing, checking in to see how things are going, if they had questions on their homework or classwork. So that's also something we're considering at the elementary level. At the middle school level, that would look like your typical advisory period or your homeroom class. And so the teachers would have that opportunity, specifically 6th through 8th, to check in with their students on a daily basis, 10 to 15 minutes. We feel that that's another way to connect, especially for the incoming 6th graders, especially for our little guys in TK and Kinder. And
I think, I'm sorry, Dr. McCurry, I just want to quickly share also that, you know, when you get into the hybrid models, that's where the creativity is really important, and thinking through the scheduling. It can get quite complex, especially at the middle school level. You know, here in Berryessa, we have large size middle schools with quite a few children. And so that's where thinking through safely how to return and how we can navigate those schedules and how we can leverage, you know, the different teachers and the different content areas, especially in those elective components, and how we can work through and create a schedule so that there's contact for children in a variety of different ways. And that's where, you know, our conversations with our teachers, and you know, they've been very collaborative with us in thinking through and problem solving those, and those are conversations that we're still having and reflecting on, so we can put together, you know, the best schedule possible for those students.
If I can jump in there, Dr. Fuentes, and let me start by saying thank you to all the 302 participants that we have so far this evening, and thank you for your comments through the chat. There are a number of questions that we want to get through, and we have about 10 minutes. And so let me group some of these. We've had a few comments regarding teachers. What if teachers and staff, you know, have compromised health issues? What if they prefer distance learning due to their own family or home situation? How will you navigate that as a district? So let's start with that one.
Okay, thank you. And I know, I believe Darian Johnson, our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, has joined us today too. Let's see if she's on the line.
I am. Hello.
There you are. Hi, Darian.
Hi. So that process we will handle on a one-to-one basis as our staff come forward, be it certificated or classified staff. And then based on that individual's needs, and there's actually some guidelines on how to handle staff who may have a compromised immune system or someone that they're near to may have that. And so then we'll deal with that on a one-to-one basis. But that's always being taken into consideration, considering the sensitivity that people have to different types of contact and illnesses.
Thank you so much for that answer. You know, another group of questions that we have are regarding, you know, the availability of masks, how you can ensure that kids are social distancing when it comes to this hybrid model. So can you talk a little bit about some of those challenges, you know, with, again, having a child wear a mask, making sure that kids keep their distance, the issue of, you know, facilities and cleanliness, all that kind of stuff that's related to, again, COVID-19 prevention.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, it's a great question. It's a critical one during this time when you're dealing with a health pandemic. And so I do want to say that's definitely an area where our public health department guidance is going to be key. I know in the conversations that the superintendents have had with the public health department, we are anticipating that guidance will also provide recommendations based on students' age, you know, in terms of their age group. We know that younger children may have more difficulty being able to keep on a face covering or being able to do the physical distancing. And so that's also where the public health department comes from in terms of the importance of maintaining students in stable cohort groups. There's more fluidity within a stable cohort group and versus in large groups where they mix with others, which is why they strongly recommend that we limit the mixing as much as possible. In terms of face covering requirements, right now it's a requirement for all adults, all staff. For students, you know, we have two different competing orders, and so we're curious to see where the public health department, our local public health department, what they advise. Currently, our shelter-in-place order strongly recommends face coverings for children 6 and older. But as you all know, a few weeks ago, our governor also put into place a face covering order statewide. And that statewide order says it's 3 and over. But I do know that the state's revisiting that in terms of young children's capacity. But I do want to also take this opportunity to share with our families especially that when it comes to safety protocols like wearing face coverings and physically distancing from others, that those are, you know, common recommendations that we've seen from the CDC all the way to our local public health department for everyone to practice. That's definitely something that we'll work on with our children. Can we guarantee that they're going to do that 100% of the time? We cannot, but that's where we solicit your support because that's training that really needs to begin now. And, you know, as much as you can have your children practice wearing face coverings while you go out for a walk, or if you take them with you to, you know, various outings, and also explaining to them why that's important. That would be greatly helpful to us in the school district to know that students have had some familiarity with that prior to coming to school the first day and then having that expectation. The same thing I would say that, you know, the third strategy besides face coverings and physical distancing is the hand washing. And if nothing else for children, that's probably the number one practice that we want to be sure that they know how to do and that they do frequently, and they know how to do well in terms of amount of time spent washing their hands.
Dr. Fuentes, it's 6:54, and I still have lots of other questions that I'd like to get to. One of the things that has come up in a number of different comments are, how can we ensure that the district is able to reach out to all children equally, making reference to students who have special needs? I assume that also means kids who may have less access to technology, or support at home with technology. How is the district preparing for that and recognizing that there are differences?
Yes, thank you for that question, because I want to say that students who've had limited access in the spring have been on the forefront of our minds. When we think about our students with special needs, it was challenging to think about the different strategies that they require are often, in-person strategies, and thinking about how to do that remotely and still provide that same level of care was difficult. I highly commend all of our specialists in the district who really tried to think that through, and I know they've had a lot of reflection on what that can look like for the fall and how we can improve that outreach. And also knowing that our special needs students also may be a priority group in terms of in-person instruction, if that's an allowable that we can do. We know that they're a subgroup of students that would most benefit from in-person teaching. And I do want to say too that just with the technology access piece, that's something that we also wanted to ensure was available. We had Chromebook distributions. We also had hotspots available for families that had difficulty with internet connection. I want to use this opportunity to remind our families we continue to have that available. We still have hotspots that are available for those that are in need. And also just in conversation with one family, I also wanted to clarify that Chromebooks are not just limited to those who don't have any hardware at home. We also know that, we have families with multiple children where maybe parents are working remotely and they're on laptops, and maybe there was one Chromebook for 2 children to share. We also wanted to encourage families in those situations to seek us out and to get an additional Chromebook for ease. So that way, children have what they need, and that'll be some ongoing support that we'll provide. In addition, this summer during summer school programming, we're offering programming for our students with special needs, as well as students who are English learners. And we're learning quite a bit in how we're navigating distance learning in summer school. We're trying different strategies. We're doing more small group instruction, which is turning out to be more effective than, whole group with students' attention, but then also just being able to support them better with what they need. So that's giving us an opportunity, some feedback on how to improve what we do in the fall as well.
Well, Dr. Fuentes, we won't have time to answer all the many questions that have come in this evening, but I want to share a few of them, and then I want to end with one more question that I think is probably on everybody's mind. So let me mention a couple of the other ones that I think are important to mention. There are individuals who've said, how can we as a district support students at the social, emotional level, and what kind of supports can be provided there? So that's one question that I know we will certainly respond to through this process as after today. Another parent, a couple of them talked about how will we measure success? How do we know that the models are working? How can we make sure we tweak them as we move along? And so those are really, they were talking about measurement and really thinking about a process for capturing what's working and not working. So those are a couple of them. And a few comments have come in also about Eastside Union High School District. And parents have mentioned that they know that district, the high school district that we feed into, they've decided to go virtual. And so they've already made that decision. So that leads to the final question, which is, when do you think, when do you estimate that you will have a decision or will be able to make a decision in terms of what model or a strategy for the fall?
Right.
What's the timing that you think?
Sure, great question. And I know Eastside Union High School District, part of their rationale for virtual start to the fall was, safety concerns, number one, but safety concerns also because of the size of their schools. High school setting, the number of students enrolled at a high school is immense, and to try to think about stable cohorts at the high school level is very challenging. So for us, key is our Santa Clara County Public Health guidance. That's going to be critical for us. Once we get that, I know that our district action team can move forward with more concrete plans of what we can offer. We have a goal of mid-July, so that's just a few weeks, not too far, to try to, at that point, present to our Board of Trustees a framework of what we plan to offer for the fall. I'd like to, we'd like to be able to give folks a month's out notice if we can, of what those plans are, so families and staff can make decisions of what they'd like to do. Also, again, with the caveat that once we share a plan, there's still tentative discussions that we have to continue to have with our employees to fully solidify all the details of what that will look like. And that's why the importance of creating this page of community engagement on our website. So as we have more information, that's where we're going to put, what we know, so we can keep you updated and posted with how we're coming along. But definitely, we plan to have special board meeting mid-July to be able to share a framework of where our district action team has landed.
Well, Dr. Fuentes, thank you for sharing that. A number of parents are thanking you and thanking your staff for your efforts and for this town hall meeting as a way to begin to share information. And I know that you, Dr. Fuentes, would agree with those who are also saying that it's still not enough information. Yeah. And I think that I know all of the district staff is working really hard with the information that is available. And unfortunately, it is limited at this point in terms of what information is available. So I'd like to again thank everyone for participating this evening, for sharing all of your questions and your thoughts and your comments. The district staff is here to listen, and they're here to support. And really, it's everyone's goal to work on developing a plan that will make everyone happy and meet the needs of our students and our community. And so we want to thank you for your time this evening. Want to again point to the website that Dr. Fuentes mentioned, where we will be posting this meeting, all the various resources, and it also has a function for you to add more comments and questions. We are going to work through these questions and comments shared tonight through the chat, and we will be preparing those in the form of questions and answers, and we will continue to do our best to provide the best available information. Dr. Fuentes, I will turn it over to you for your final words.
Thank you. And again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I know this is a high interest topic, as it should be, and I just also want to add that, the Berryessa Union staff care deeply about your children. And as I've had the opportunity to have various focus groups with staff, you know, all the things you've asked about are questions that are on our staff's mind too. And they've had great concern for the children and what we'll be able to provide, and have had wonderful ideas too on how we can do better and improve and provide some choice for our families in the fall. And so we look forward in developing all of that and being able to continue to share with you how those plans are unfolding. So thank you again for being here with us tonight.
Well, once again, this is the end of tonight's town hall meeting, and we look forward to staying connected and engaged. Have a wonderful evening.